Salemakers la mette in mezzo, bella tiro, gol! Luka Modric ha segnato Luka, ecco il gol del maestro.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony, the indestructible Torgrud.
Honestly, the snow has broken me down pretty good, actually. So I don't know if that one works, but I'll take it.
I was trying to think, because I usually just make them up on the spot. I was trying to think of a word beginning with "in" that means that you can't get out of your house, but obviously it goes against it a little bit. Yeah, there you go. You're snowed in. You've had like 2 foot or something?
Yeah. I actually haven't looked out the window and I got my blinds closed, but yeah, it was still snowing when I went to bed last night, and it was definitely at like 1.5 feet. So who knows where it's at now? Definitely closer to 2 feet.
You'll have never had, because you obviously grew up in a part of the world where you don't get much snow. You'll have never had a snow day at school.
Correct. Yeah, never had a snow day.
Oh mate, it used to be so good. Like 13 years old, sat listening to the radio, because that's what they used to put out just before sending texts around and stuff. Yeah, listening to the radio, and it's like Benton Park School closed for the day. I fucking get in there. Yes. Oh man.
Now they don't even close them. Now they do fucking remote learning. So just hop on the computer. Yeah. COVID, man, irreparable damage to everything.
It's quite funny because whenever there was a snow day and we were obviously off school, we all just used to meet up and have a snowball fight anyway. So we could have definitely made it in if necessary, but whatever. Anyway, you got a bit of snow. I'd say out of sight, out of mind. Don't open that blind for a while and just ignore the problems outside. We're going to talk about an avalanche of pressure that came from Roma in this game. But before we dive into it, I know you're about to display it, were you? No. No. Okay. I'm going to do the Substack plug.
Ah, very cool.
Scrolling across the bottom there, you see the founding members. We thank them all. As you can probably see if you're looking at the screenshot here, we did a bonus podcast late last week on Friday, in which we spoke about the fact that we have wrapped up a decade of SempreMilan. It was January the 22nd in 2016 that we published our first article on site, and thus this project came to life. So we did, 52 minutes there of our best memories, the firsts, the big breaks that we've had in terms of exclusives and interviews, the podcasts that we're most proud of, the best moments in terms of, us all meeting each other, the Scudetto. We kind of just took a trip down memory lane, really, and recap the first decade of hopefully many more to come. So we made that available for everybody. So if you're not a Substack subscriber, and we would urge you to go try a week for free, see if you like it, you can go and watch that on YouTube, because we thought that it was important that everyone was able to kind of enjoy the memories with us for this one. I'll say it again, we are incredibly grateful for all of the support and for the amazing community that we have built over the 10 years. I still cannot believe it's 10 years. So much has changed in that time. We're really proud of what we built, but we couldn't have done it without all you guys. Also on the Substack, you can find things such as the instant reaction that Stefano published after the full-time whistle last night, where he recaps the 1-1 draw against Roma. We're obviously going to go into it in this episode, but is it a point gained? Is it 2 points dropped? Is this style of play sustainable? Who were the tops and flops? That's the kind of thing that Stefano went through right on the full-time whistle there. The most recent pub chat also went out before the game. It was regarding the breaking news that Mike Maignan is set to stay and renew his contract for another 5 years with us. We're going to speak a little bit about that in this episode as well. But there, Lorenzo and Stefano give their take on the situation. And as you can see, if you're watching by the smiles on their faces, it's good news. Most recent bonus article that Isaac put out. I say this every time, but I urge everybody to go and, sign up for the trial. If you're a subscriber already, thank you. Please dedicate 5-10 minutes to reading this, because there's been so much talk recently about Milan being involved in this NBA Europe project. And it's something that even I, as sort of the editor of the site, I've kind of not really looked into properly, in terms of what it all means logistically, when it could come about, how much it'll cost, how much we'll benefit from it. Isaac answers all of those questions in there. It's a very good read, and it's actually quite an exciting development. And I think that, coupled with the news of the refinancing and Cardinale's visit to the city and everything, suggests that we are looking at a long-term Redbird plan rather than a quick exit strategy. Then you got the newsletter, which is available for free. You don't have to pay in order to access that, but you do have to sign up for the Substack. You get a bulletin in there, and Isaac writes about a couple of the topics in a little bit more detail. So, go try the Substack. Okay, Are we the wrong way around here?
We are, but it's all good. I'm not.
You sure?
Yeah, I won't cry.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
What if it's bad juju though, and like our unbeaten run now ends?
All right, you got me.
Superstitious me. Always been superstitious. Do you know do you have any superstitions when it comes to watching games?
No, I really don't, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm not very superstitious.
I've got one. I'm
All right.
opening myself up a little bit here, and you're all going to say it's stupid because nothing that I can do will impact the result of what happens out on the field. But
As long as you know it.
there's come a time in the past few years where I've become aware that if I wear one item of Milan clothing during a game, the result is negative. If I don't wear anything, the result is positive. If I wear two things, so say shirt and bottoms, shirt and jacket, whatever, the result is positive. So don't wear one item. Last night I chose to wear zero. Just had some shorts on and a t-shirt, and you be the judge if it's a good result or not. But anyway, the unbeaten run keeps going. We drew 1-1 with Roma at the Stadio Olimpico. Koni de Vinter with a header just after the hour mark from a corner, looking like a peak Allegri smash and grab at that point after the tidal wave of Roma pressure in the first half. But then we concede a penalty not too long after that. Davide Battazaghi penalised for a handball on a Zeki Selic cross, and Lorenzo Pellegrini finally beats Maignan from the spot. And we draw 1-1. Dive in, I guess. Thoughts, feelings?
Yeah. I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously on the previous podcast, I predicted a win. And then as we were discussing yesterday, from the moment Sunday started, I woke up and got right in the chat and I said, yeah, we're losing today. Just zero faith. I weirdly predicted a Koni de Winter goal, and I also weirdly predicted a penalty against us. Got both right, unfortunately. Wish I only got the first one right. Yeah, I mean, it was basically the exact same as the first Roma match. I mean, the only thing that was different was the minute that the penalty came, right? Like, and the fact that we didn't save it. So there's that. But Mike still went the right way. He did get a finger on it, but I mean, again,
it's a good penalty.
When the penalty is just an absolute missile like that, you know, you're not saving it. And that's why it's so important to hit it hard. And it obviously goes in that way. So, yeah, great penalty. But look, we were not, I don't want to say we weren't the better team. I think that is fair to say. But also, at what point do we just admit that that is the Allegri blueprint, right? To invite as much pressure as you possibly can to tire out the team, and then just make the most of the few chances you get. It's not the greatest game plan. You know, there's a reason why Juve fans said Allegri needs to go after he won them like 5 consecutive Scudetti, you know, and it was because it's horrible to watch football. But we knew that going into it, right? I don't think anyone saw the appointment and said, oh, we're going to look like prime Barca. You know, it was, we're going to win some fucking games. It's not going to be pretty, but we're going to win games. And so far we have. But I do hate that we're on 8 draws. I don't like that. We talked about it earlier, and it just, I would rather us lose a few more games pushing for the win. And this is one of those ones that kind of bothered me. Obviously, it's a head-to-head, and you know, ultimately a draw, given all the circumstances, isn't the worst result. It just sucks knowing that Inter won earlier in the week. But it's like, I don't remember what minute it was, but there was a point towards the end of the game. I want to say it was around 85th minute. We had the ball. We kind of got forward. We didn't really have a break. And we just passed it back. And then Modric and I don't remember who else, but probably Loftus-Cheek just started shooting the ball. Just kind of waiting, time wasting with, you know, multiple minutes to play. And I'm like, guys, game's not over. Like, we're still in this. We could push forward. You know, we've proven all it takes is one chance for us to score against most teams. And we chose to sit on the draw. And I think that's why it left me with a sour taste. Because on paper, a draw against this Roma is not a bad result, right? It's just with the whole picture, it kind of is irritating, I think.
Yeah. I think this is a really, really tough game to try and like hyper analyze. I said 1-1 in the preview prediction because I just thought it was kind of immovable force versus unstoppable object type thing. Obviously, they haven't actually they hadn't drawn a game all season in any competition out of 29. So, picking a draw wasn't necessarily the safe bet that it might have appeared. And then obviously we've got a 21 game unbeaten run going. Roma very good at home. Us very good away. Two very good defenses coming up against each other. Two attacking departments with quality that can decide it. There were all the recipes for this to be two teams that kind of cancelled each other out. I don't think that what we saw on the field is necessarily that. I think Roma dominated us for large parts, but a bit like the first game, I wouldn't say that they generated 3 or 4 clear-cut scoring opportunities quite like, say, Como did in that game a couple of weeks ago. It didn't feel like that. It didn't. Maignan made some saves, and I think he rightly claimed the MVP award from the league. I think he made a couple on Marlon, but Marlon's finishing was dreadful on the night. So we're kind of lucky in that sense. He made a decent low save to deny Manu Kone. I think he blocked a shot from... might have been Selic from relatively close range, kind of tight angle, but they weren't necessarily, worldies, fingertips over the bar, crashing stuff onto the post. It was none of that. I think we let Roma into the box too easily. I will say that. They're finishing on another night. If they bury those chances, I think we're going in 3-0 down at halftime or something. However, we kind of didn't get fully overrun in that sense. And then obviously, game of 2 halves, we kind of settled things down a bit in the second half. And there was an indication, I thought, in what Allegri said after the game in his post-match press conference. He said, of course, keeping up the pace Roma maintained in the first half for the full 95 minutes would have been difficult. That, for me, is a pretty strong suggestion that this was by design. Mm-hmm. We've done it to other teams this season, in the big games, especially Juve kind of away. Obviously, we ended up drawing that. Atalanta away. Roma we beat, Napoli we beat, Inter we beat. This tactic of kind of luring them in a bit and making them feel like they have all the superiority, but the goal doesn't come, so they start to commit an extra body, and we try and hurt them at the other end. It kind of happened a bit differently this way, where we settled things down early on in the second half, and then we grew in confidence. We get that set piece. Modric puts in a beautiful ball, buzzing for Koni de Finta. He deserved that goal. He's been outstanding in recent weeks. And then, as I alluded to earlier, it's looking like what a brilliant bit of shithousing this is going to be. But this time, we are unable to see it out. It's kind of mirrored those games the Roma won earlier in the season, the Inter won earlier in the season, where they get a penalty somewhat from nowhere, and it's like, right, this is going to cost us points. Maignan bailed us out before. This time he wasn't able to. So you sort of look at the game overall as the full picture. I'm viewing it as a point gained. I actually think that this result, both in isolation and kind of in the fabric of the season, is not a bad draw. I'm not absolutely fuming at this result at all. The problem is that Inter are running their own race at the moment. They're escaping fast. Every time I look at their fixture list, they seem to have a bunch of easy games. They've got some games coming up where I think it could become 7 points, then 9 points, and then it's like, they're just going to run away with it. However, for now, we've kept them kind of... Once it gets over 5 points, I know it's 5 points now, but once it gets over that, it feels like a lot. They're 3 games away. For now, they're the 5 points ahead. Obviously, it's looking like they might have to go through the playoff round in the Champions League, so that'll add a couple of extra games in and around tougher games in the fixture list. So, we'll wait and see on that front. But if you take... we want to look up as fans, don't we? So we're looking up and seeing Inter kind of move away here. But I think if you just remove that and you look at it, I honestly don't think it's a bad draw. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a point gained on Napoli, and it's keeping Roma at 4 points behind. I believe Juventus is also, or they're 5 points behind, something like that. So, I mean, those are all like 2 games away, essentially. So, well, actually, they are not even essentially they are, which, I mean, it's a small cushion, but it's a cushion nonetheless. And look, we may not believe it because we're fans and we see, the table, but the goal set out from the beginning of the season has been and always has been qualifying for the Champions League. So if you take the Scudetto out of the equation, everything's going according to plan. But we're fans, and ultimately we don't watch the games because we want to qualify for a competition. We watch games because we want to win a competition. And so that's why it hurts, because we are unrealistic as fans. We want to win the title. We want to have, like, not a Leicester story, because we're not anywhere near Leicester, but you want, like, that's, everyone wakes up in the morning and says, or in the morning, but on game day and says, what if today's the day? What if we pull it off? Like, do you think fans of Lecce, for example, don't think, there's a possibility that, 1 year we just have that perfect wonder kid and we go off and we win a title, Like, they don't wake up and say, I can't wait to fight for salvation this season, Like, that's not what they're doing. Now, that's realistic, that's what their target's going to be, is just salvation, but they're fans. They want to see magic. That's why we watch the sport. So you're always going to root for the title, and that's why it's a little rough. And if it wasn't Inter at the top, I think would be a bit more fine.
More accepting. Yeah, I think that's the case too. It's all relative in it. When your noisiest neighbour is having the season that they're having, when I think a lot of us predicted them to not be as good this season, but as much as I dislike them and their fan base, I kind of have to tip my hat to what's happening on the field. Kivu's doing an absolutely exceptional job there. Let's wait and see if they can keep it up. They're probably saying the same about us, as is everyone around us. How sustainable is this? Can they maintain it for 38? The full 38 league games? We'll see. But I do think that's it. If it were Napoli at the top, we're sort of saying, yeah, well, come on. They're defending champions. Of course, they invested a lot in the summer. Of course, they're going to be up there. But it doesn't help when it's the team that you share a city with. And, if they go to 21 before we go to 20, I don't acknowledge the 20 on the field for what it's worth. But, that's what they're going to say. You don't want that to happen, obviously. However, sort of, we are where we are, and I think we exist within our own little bubble. And as you say, it's about realistic expectations. In my opinion, we signed up for not fighting for the Scudetto with the summer window that we had, leaving Allegri with only 19 outfield players, because that might not even be enough, and at times it hasn't been enough to just get you through a league season, one game a week, let alone future squad building for European competitions. We stripped it right back to the bare bones and sort of said, good luck, just get us in the top four. There's no way that this kind of, squad depth or lack of was going to, in my opinion, was going to get us into a Scudetto fight. And that's why I'm still so happy that we appear to be performing at our limits. I think he's getting every single drop out of this team. And I think to withstand some of the pressure that we did last night too shows a resilience and a backbone to this team that 12 months ago was just not there at all. It just wasn't. So, like, for people to say we're not seeing any improvement in this team, said in the summer, didn't we? We have to become harder to beat. I think in all competitions we lost double digits games last season.
Yes.
Like that just it can't happen. We needed to become harder to score against and harder to beat. We've done that. If you're conceding 0 or 1 goal each game, and I know there's been games when we conceded 2 and dropped points, but if in most games you're conceding 0 or 1, we're going to win more than we lose. And that's sort of still where we're at, especially in these big games. We seem to have a certain focus and attention that actually sort of restored a bit of pride in everything that we're doing. So, yeah, I mean, I know we've kind of gone off the Roma thing a little bit here, but it all feeds into the overall sort of glass half full, half empty discussion.
I don't know what else to add, honestly.
Should we just do the as I said, Roma, chances first half, not massive, half chances. Maignan does keep us in it. I think his positioning is good in a couple of them, but I think also a couple of shots are hit straight at him and he doesn't know an awful lot about. Again, if those are 5 yards either side, we're probably talking about a different outcome here. Then the goal, lovely cross by Luka Modric, who has become the oldest player in the top 5 leagues to have 3 or more assists this season. And he's the first Serie A player since Zlatan Ibrahimovic in 2020-21, I believe, to have 2 or more assists at 40 plus. So, goes to show how decisive he is. And that's another thing as well. We talked about set piece balance. how it can only take one game, one moment in a game to kind of swing it in your favour. We're seeing it more and more, especially in the Premier League now, the value of set pieces. We withstand 60 minutes of pressure. We get a chance to put in a good delivery. We've got Luka Modric stood over it. And then, we've got some tall guys in there and uprises Divinta. Lovely header. And happy for him. Really happy for him. He's been much better in the past month or so.
Yeah, it seems like, as soon as I finally accepted he was not doing great and started criticizing him, that's when he decided to be as good as I was trying to convince everyone he was. So, whatever. I'll take that one on the chin. But hey, I'm happy for him.
It's just a late victory, mate. That's all it is.
That's all it is. Yeah, I want him to be, breakout player of the season. He still might be. Who knows? It could still be Jashari, who I really wanted to see yesterday.
He looked like he was stripped off at one point and then sent back to the bench.
That's what I wasn't sure. And I don't know why I can't identify all of our players on the bench sometimes. Like, I get a little confused. I guess Ricci was the guy I normally mix him up with, but Ricci started, so it couldn't have been him. Yeah, so it must have been Jashar that, warmed up. And then, I don't know. Well, it happened with, as soon as we scored, Roma did the same thing with someone that they were about to bring on. I can't remember who, but which is normal, right? The game changes. You need to make a different evaluation of the system. But I was not impressed with Ricci's game. I thought he really looked disjointed. He was a bit all over the place. A lot of incomplete passes in the midfield in the opening 25, 30 minutes. And I think that really messed with us a lot. And I know that obviously we want to invite pressure and allow them to wear themselves out, but we're certainly not saying make a bad pass, right? So that's something to keep an eye on. It's going to bite us eventually. I just hope we get that under control, because I've noticed it a lot lately. Is a lot of bad passes in the midfield, even with Modric, and that's not normal for Modric and Rabiot, but both of them were making a lot of bad passes in that first half. Second half, they both were fine, and Ricci came off, but not the greatest.
I think one thing that worries me in first halves, usually in these big games, when we retreat into a bunker, we do exactly that. Like, we don't seem to have a setting where we're able to slow the game down and take the sting out of it by just passing it around the back for a couple of minutes, and that, as negative as it may look, but it just eases everything, especially in such a hostile crowd. If you can get Roma pressing but chasing shadows because you're just keeping the ball well, that tires them out more. Instead, we just seem to kind of play ourselves deeper and deeper and then hoof it back to them. And then all of a sudden we're all compact defending our own box again. So that's why I think sometimes it can resemble wave after wave of attack. I would like us to improve our game management in that sense.
I don't understand what Rafa was doing. He was so obsessed with getting a back flick every, a first-time flick or dummies.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a moment when it actually worked. I lost my fucking head too. I was screaming. And that was frustrating. I also thought starting Leao and Kunku was a choice.
It was a decision.
Yeah.
A decision was made. I thought this was a game. I mean, benefit of hindsight, we saw how the game played out, and it always helps to view it through that lens. But I thought that was a game made for Füllkrug, because you need someone to pin Mancini. Otherwise, he will just keep pushing up the field and deny service into the forwards. And that's exactly what happened. How many times did Leao get the ball kicked out from under him? How many times did Nkunku get, Mancini or Ndika was touch tight on him? And really, he should have had a few more free kicks, but they're smart about this kind of thing. They know not to go too far where it's an obvious free kick. They push the line of contact that's acceptable. And you kind of play into their hands when you have two mobile forwards that are dropping further and further, and they'll just follow them out and they'll beat them in the physical duel. You need Füllkrug to come on and say, right, Mancini, I'm well up for this battle with you. You're a prick, which he is. And I think, swinging a few arms and elbows, what have you, we needed that from minute one, because it just establishes you a presence and an out ball that just wasn't there. So I thought that he got that one wrong. Again, hindsight, I'm not a football manager, but that's just what I would have done. And then I might have even not started Leao in this one, which I know sounds controversial because he's the game breaker, the one who can produce moments of magic from nothing, like we saw at Como away and in other games this season. But I just think maybe in that situation, you need a runner or someone who's going to occupy smart spaces for full crooks, knockdowns, and second balls and things like that. So I might have actually even started with full crook Pulisic. If Pulisic wasn't fit, then Nkunku is probably your guy. But I must say the front two didn't help us out at all.
Yeah, and it's ironic because I agree with that. That's who I would have started was Fulkrug Pulisic, but that was the sub that he made to take off Leao and Nkunku for both Pulisic and Fulkrug at the exact same time, for changes. And I thought they were almost entirely ineffective. I mean, I genuinely forgot they were even on the field until closer to the 90th minute, and I was like, oh shit, they're still here. They weren't doing a whole lot. And I don't know if that's how it would have played out if they started the match, but it certainly was how it played out when they came on, and I didn't like that either. So, I don't know if they're going through something else. I was under the impression that he was fully fit, him being Pulisic a few weeks ago. So I think it's weird that he's been a bench player the last 3 or 4 games, however many it's been. Whereas Leao even said pregame that he's not 100%. So I think it's weird that he did start. So that tells me that maybe there is something still wrong with Pulisic that just hasn't been disclosed to us. But then it's like, why is he playing at all? So I don't know. That needs to be worked out. I would like it to be worked out publicly because I'm curious, but probably won't be. And I know you and I have disagreed on this a lot, and Steph vocally disagreed on it last night, was being a little bitch about it. But I would like to see a formation change. I mean, I know it's working. It's gotten us this far, but we just need more firepower. And I think a three up front, I just don't know what to do with the rest of the formation, whether it stays 3 at the back or goes to a 4 at the back. Because when you make that change, you hurt one of the lines, right? There's you only get 10 players in the outfield. So no matter where you put the 4, someone gets hurt. And I don't know if we want to do that with the center backs, take one of the center backs off. I think that is the obvious choice, and maybe it helps us a bit more because while we are a good defense, we do look disjointed a bit, and maybe that'll be amplified if we change it. I don't know. It's yet to be seen. The problem is we don't have the squad depth to do anything. We don't have the squad depth for what we're running now. We don't have the squad depth to do a 4-3-3. We don't have the squad depth to do a 3-4-3. We just, no matter where you go, you benefit someone while also hurting that same person, because I know your argument is we have 4 forwards. You can't have 3. And you're right. That's 100% right. But when we have 2, we're not scoring, it's Koni de Winter coming up and scoring, which is great. So then if we go to 3, then we take Koni de Winter off, and now we don't have him scoring. It's 19 players is not enough. We should not have sold all the players we did. I mean, I didn't want us to sell Chukwueze or Okafor. We talked about that earlier in the year. And now it looks like Jimenez is also getting purchased, but it looks like all those options are being taken up because they're doing great in the Premier League. So I don't know. We need more players. I think that's bottom line. But
yeah. We got a question about it, which I want to go on and answer. But yeah, I think in our chat, your concluding remark after the back and forth with Steph was spot on. No matter how you move the pieces around, there's no perfect fit. That's just where we're at with the little players that we have. Funnily enough, we've only got one injury at the moment, which is Santi Jimenez. In terms of players that are actually out, we think some players are playing through discomfort, but they're able to play at the very least. And if that one injury, if Jimenez is fit, you probably can switch to playing 3 because then you've got 5, maybe 6 forwards to play in the 3 positions if you want to maybe move Salamanca's up or whatever. So yeah, there's that, but it's whatever. Should we just quickly talk about the penalty?
Yeah.
I have no arguments about it. Bartizaghi didn't have any arguments about it. The only thing that you can say, I think it's a little bit naive from Bartizaghi because he seems to just kind of switch off and almost not expect anything to come back across him. However, at the same time, Maignan said after the game, are we expecting him to cut his arm off? I think he's clearly got his arm out to brace for impact because Celik is mid-air jumping to try and get to this thing. Problem is, as soon as it hits, it's a penalty, and you can really faintly see just in the top right next to the green E, that's a Roma player arriving. So you can't even say, well, there was no one there on the end of it. I think if Bartazagi doesn't block that with his arm, it's probably a tap in. So it's one of those. I don't have any arguments about that.
I think the reasoning for why it wouldn't be is it's almost point blank. His arm, while outstretched, is in a natural position, and he is being essentially jumped through, so he's going to have to brace himself, try to fall down and not put your arms out to stop it. Let me know how it goes for you. All that said, is still a penalty.
Yes,
whether your arm is in a natural position or not, it's still outstretched, and it's hitting his hand. It's not like it's hitting the elbow or the shoulder, or the forearm, the bicep. It is his hand. So not and again, his hand is not, he's not trying to palm it away like a basketball. It just hits his hand, but it hits his hand. So it is a penalty. I have no issue with it. I think it is what it is. I think it's, again, Bartazagi with a silly handball penalty given away. We've given away a lot of them this year, but it is a penalty. We have the most penalties against us in Serie A, and it's hard to argue against really any of them, but maybe one or two.
Yeah. I mean, you were saying it feels like all 8 have been handballs, and I could only think of, was it 2 that haven't, which was the Pavlovic on Thuram and Estupinian pulling down whomever was going to put in the rebound in that Napoli game.
Yeah.
There probably was another foul that I can't think of, but yeah, it does feel like a lot of silly handballs. And I just wonder if this is kind of quite literally paying the penalty for how much we collapse into the box. With more volume inside the box, you are naturally going to get more of these incidents occur. As unlucky as they might be, it does feel a bit like a law of averages thing. But then again, other teams defend deep too, so maybe it is disproportional. This was the follow-up incident a few minutes later. It's a cross from Wesley, blasted at Pulisic's arm from very close range. As you can see, when the ball leaves his foot, he's a yard away, 2 yards away. This one wasn't given because in the eyes of the referee and in the eyes of the VAR, Pulisic is not enlarging his frame. His arm's down by his side, and he can't do anything about it from that range. So, correct decision on that front, I think. We're not hypocritical wankers. Like I've seen Inter fans saying, "Oh, lucky Milan," and so we're willing to admit one was a penalty and the other wasn't. That's just the way it was. But people trying to say that was a stonewall second penalty. I'd invite you to read the rules.
Yeah, this is look again, natural position, arms as tucked as it could be. Even if he were to weirdly bend his wrist behind his back, it's still going to hit his forearm. Like, it is point blank shot at it. I mean, you could even, it's hard to tell, but you could see with the way he's kicking the ball that it's aimed at the arm, and you could maybe give him the benefit of the doubt and see there is a Roma player behind Pulisic in that third slide there. So maybe that, like, he's trying to pass there, but he's essentially kicking it at the arm, and that's like dark arts. And, sometimes you get rewarded, sometimes you don't, but the reality is there's nothing he could have done about this. And the reason it's a different decision to the Bartazagi one, where I think they're both in natural positions, Bartazagi is naturally outstretched, which does make you so much bigger. This one, there's nothing else you could do. Like, because the reality is no one's going to fall down with their hands by their side, but you could do it, and that would prevent the ball from hitting in Bartazagi's case. In this one, there's nowhere else to put the arm. That's it. Like, ironically, if he outstretched it, it wouldn't hit the arm, right? But it's you wouldn't do that, because then if it does hit, it's a clear penalty, and you're actually trying to block it. So this is never a penalty. They're crying because they can.
I mean, I didn't like, so I'm the penalties I believe he got right, and those are the major incidents, I suppose, within the game, and the ones that ultimately, I guess, determine the final scoreline. But I tweeted out a compilation video. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have. It's gone everywhere.
4K likes now. I don't understand why it's gone so viral, but I did not like Andrea Colombo's officiating in general. I thought he was being a typical petulant. Someone replied actually and saying that he's salty about the suspension he got all those years ago when he belittled and insulted our players and club, submitting and we submitted an official complaint about him. I'd forgotten about that. I had to look back for that one, but he clearly has a bit of personal. Someone also said he's a well-known Inter fan.
Clearly,
surprise me either. However, just the things that he did were totally bizarre. The Rabiot and Svilar thing to me was watching in real time was really scary. I actually thought he'd followed through and just booted his head. That's what it looked like.
Yes, yeah.
So
Yeah,
obviously
I
that
thought he
happens, and it's an unfortunate collision, but he just kind of kicks the ball into his face from there, and the boot doesn't make contact at any point. I personally thought it was probably a foul because he kicks the ball out of his two hands, but I didn't think it was a yellow card.
See, and I was good with the yellow card because when I watched it live, my thought was that he just booted him in the dome. And so I'm thinking, oh, fuck, he's getting a red. So then I saw yellow and I was like, okay, we got away with that, but they're going to review it. And then I saw the replay and I was like, oh, he didn't hit him at all, but it absolutely is a foul. You can't kick the ball out of his hands,
You
so
can
I'm
maybe
like,
say endangering an opponent.
that's kind of where my head went. So I was like, okay, I'm fine with the yellow there, but that's the only one that I was okay with. I mean, the Mignon one is crazy. He steps on Mignon's foot and Mignon reacts like, ow, you just stepped on my fucking foot. And then he gives him a yellow
card. Onto the top of his foot. The kind of thing that normally breaks metatarsals.
Yeah, the thing
Mignon's
that
like,
people red cards. Yeah.
Yellow card.
So that's insane. The Modric one was crazy too because, and I already forget the kid's name, but the 18-year-old.
Yeah,
what does he do? Does he like kick the ball out when Modric is lining up a free kick, or?
So obviously a free kick's being given for offside because he's strayed offside, and Modric goes to chip it up into his hands to obviously put the free kick down, take it, and this kid just comes shunting through the back of him. I'd say the ball's not in play, therefore it's almost like an off-ball incident, shall we say? And then Modric turns around, he's like, "What are you doing?" And the referee comes storming over and like quite literally, as he's giving him the yellow card, his armpit basically, I'm watching it right now, his armpit basically brushes Modric's face and Modric backs up. Then he gets the yellow card and Modric is like that. He's Italian very quickly. But just what the fuck are you doing? Like, who do you think you are? There's a way to behave. Like, it's not about Modric earning any kind of, he doesn't deserve special treatment or anything. But when you are getting in players' faces, when you are physically coming into contact with them, and that's why I think the Rabiot one is the one that wound me up the most, right? Because Rabiot just wants to go over and check that Svilar's all right because he thinks he kicked through him. The Roma players are coming over to him and they're like, "What did you do that for?" But the referee actually physically shoves him away. That if it were the other way, what would happen?
He'd be sent off.
Yeah, and it's just like, what are we doing here? Someone also replied with something that I thought was fitting. If you're a good referee, you don't have to resort to physical gestures to establish control in the game, and I think that is absolutely spot on. I've had to mute that video because it's gone too big. But
and those are just the carded incidents. I mean, there were so many on-field fouls that either weren't called or were called that weren't fouls. Like the amount of. And I saw some praise for it, just like, oh, good job letting them play. Like, they allow them to be physical. It's a physical game. It's like, no, it's a foul. It's a foul. Like you need to call these things. And I see it often where people are online, like, regardless of the bad refereeing, it's still your job to do everything. Like the referee's not involved in every incident. It's like, yeah, I agree with that. But when he calls a foul the moment you get on the ball for anything, or he doesn't call a foul when you get on the ball and you're immediately pushed to the ground, kicked out, punched, basically slapped, and you don't get a foul called. It's like, the referee is controlling the game. You can't build anything when play stops or doesn't stop immediately. It's a very weird situation. And look, I didn't know about this. The incident that you talked about us filing a complaint. When was that? I never heard of this.
I'll try to find it again.
Yeah, that's news to me, but I would not doubt it knowing how Italian referees are that he's holding a grudge. I did say right as the game was about to start when I saw the refereeing lineup, and I said, oh, unknown refs, we're screwed, because that's been the case this year in all big games. We've had like rookies that just don't carry the game well. I don't know. They don't know how to manage big games, and we've unfortunately had those in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like weirdly, bad referees that we're used to have been the best referees for us this season.
Yeah, no, that is true. it comes back. It dates back, sorry, to 2018. Does this? And I thought it was just a league game, but it was actually a Primavera game between Milan Primavera and Chievo Primavera. There was a big post-match altercation. Andrea Conti was playing in that game, I presume, as like a rehab stint thing. Maldini was there. Both of those got suspended for what happened after the game, but the club put out an official statement accusing Colombo of derogatory and offensive behaviour towards multiple players. And the Federal Court of Appeal took up the matter. Maldini's ban was lifted. Colombo got a 2-month suspension for inappropriate remarks with denigratory and provocative content towards Alessandro Sala, Daniel Maldini, Riccardo Tonini, Shadzut, forgot about him, and a couple of other players there. But yeah, so basically there's previous with this particular referee. It goes back to the Primavera, but those are the kind of things that some officials take with them. And, you know, he's obviously refereed us since. I read that he'd made a bad call in 2024 in the game against Monza, but I'd have to look back into what it was. But anyway, we don't like him. Let's quickly look at the stats here. Roma, 58% possession, 2.75 XG to 0.44. Only 2 big chances to 1, which, you know, one of them's the penalty. So in open play, it's 1-1. They had triple the shots, though, 15-5. Over triple the shots on target, 7-2, and 5 corners to 3. Yellow cards. Roma actually had substantially more fouls than we did, and they got 0 yellow cards. Of course, we get 4.
And none of ours were for actual fouls. So there's at the comments definitely was, and that was fair.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention as well before we do tops and flops. Just for a bit of transparency too, we are going to preview the Bologna game in this, and then we are going to record the main pod next Wednesday as you know, the day after the Bologna game, rather than record another one on the Monday where we don't have a game to talk about. So we're going to preview the Bologna game, but I also wanted to talk about the subs that we made in this Roma game. You mentioned Fulkrug and Pulisic having little impact. I subscribe to what you were kind of hinting at, where I think if things are flipped and those two start the game and you're able to kind of inject the pace and, dare I say, trickery, maybe not so much, but of Leao and Nkunku, then you can exploit those situations in transition when players are tired. I think you just got the pairings the wrong way around there, or maybe you can come up with different combinations. I don't know, but yeah, those two came on. In the 68th minute, we of course made the change at half time. We should briefly mention that Salamakers just wasn't at the races. For me, he looked like a combination of not 100% fit and maybe was rushed back with his adductor problem. And also he seemed to suffer a bit from getting jeered very aggressively every time he was on the ball. Roma fans have not forgotten the way he behaved in that reverse fixture, which, you know, it's fair enough. You reap what you sow.
Yeah. I laugh because I remember during the Scudetto season, the game against Lazio, I believe it was Lazio, and was Sarri their coach then as well? It was against a Sarri team. I don't remember.
Yeah, probably will have been. Yeah.
There was the moment that got caught on camera where Salamakers is doing this and Sarri's behind him, and he's like, "What was that?" And then,
yes, that's right.
Went a little viral because I said, like, "Look at you, emotional" in the caption. Well, it was Salad's turn to be extremely emotional, and he was getting fucking dog walked everywhere. Every decision he made was the wrong one. He wanted to score so bad because of the jeers. The whistles were getting to him. I mean, he didn't get carded. He probably should have been carded a few times. And I think taking him off at halftime was the correct substitution. Maybe a little harsh, but he didn't look good. And look, at the comment wasn't like league's better. You know, he got a yellow card pretty quickly. But ultimately, I mean, I think it calmed things down a bit on that flank. Obviously, he at the comment doesn't get forward as much as Salah does, so there's that. But I think it was the right sub.
Well, Atakame actually nearly got himself in behind, and then that touch let him down, and he ended up dribbling out for a goal kick. That was a moment where I'm like, oh my god, he's going to do it. He completely burst past his man, and I'm thinking this is his moment. He also had one where tried to whip in across, and it ended up being a bit more of a shot that Svila saved. But Atakame, he impacted the game a bit more than Salamakers had. However, he then also found himself out of position, which led to the yellow card. And I thought they're going to target him here. We could be looking at a red card. So, yeah.
During the yellow card, there's a slow motion replay from the front where you see Atakame reaching around, pull him down. And just behind him in slow-mo, you see Max just start shaking his head. He just knows immediately.
He hates players being out of position. That's just like his thing. Yeah, and then the final change was Loftus-Cheek for Ricci in the 79th minute, I think just to add a little bit of size to the midfield. But, in that you've got Jashari staying on the bench. Pavlovic still not really getting any minutes since that head injury. Fofana, unused substitute. And I thought it was interesting that he didn't start, actually, because I think... they play 3-4-2-1, so they've got a double pivot, and we obviously play a 3 in midfield. I thought it felt like a really obvious thing to say. Fofana on Koni, we don't mind if you don't do anything in an attacking sense. You just watch and engage in physical duels with Manu Koni. Then Rabiot against Cristante on the other side, 2 quite big midfielders, and that leaves Modric free to be able to kind of dictate from deep. He didn't do that. He went for the more technical and, I don't know, what you call Ricci, but he's not a Fofana type player. And I think we struggled in the midfield as a result of that. Now, that's not me saying the game would have been different if Fofana started. But I just think when Fofana has been Allegri's comfort blanket this season, in terms of he will run and he will fight for every ball, he didn't go for that in a game where it might have been needed because Koni was running the show in the first half. He's an outstanding player, by the way. And then he went off injured, and that kind of actually turned the tide a little bit. So it was interesting. All right, let's do tops and flops then. I think the top has to be Koni de Winter. What on a cent?
I'm going to go Mignon. Yeah, I was going to pick Mignon. Obviously, he led in the penalty, but he went the right way. Still got a hand to it, and made a lot of saves. Obviously, they only had the 2 big chances, but it was 15 shots, and I don't know how many were on target. Quite a few. Yeah,
he made 5 saves in the first 40 minutes alone, I think.
I made a save in the first 15 seconds.
The only thing I'd say, and Mignon obviously gets the league MVP award for the game. So, obviously that's an agreement from the top source of all. But as I say, it didn't feel like the Como game where he made 5 saves that really were going top corner or were absolutely belting. I thought a couple were straight at him, but still got to be there. And, he was good still. Claiming stuff as well. He came to punch stuff and catch crosses. And I think that's been lacking a bit.
The reason I pick him over Koni de Winter is because as much as I want to give to Koni, I don't rate a center back scoring a goal as highly as a forward. I think, especially from a corner, it's like, okay, right place, right time. But then you look at how many saves does the goalkeeper have to make, whether they're good ones or not. That's only happening because the defenders aren't doing a good enough job stopping them. So that's kind of why I weigh it that way. Open to argument on that, open to disagreement. I have no issue if people think Koni de Winter gets it. That's fine as well. I like the guy, so that's cool. But I'm going Mignon for my top, and for flop, I'm going Salamakers. I thought that first 45 was just so awful from him, so emotionally charged, and that's just not the way you need to be playing, especially against your old club. Like you look at Lorenzo Colombo, he scored against his old club. He was very composed for Genoa playing against us. And then you get the way Salamakers played here. It was like he had a chip on his shoulder. He came out first minute. He could have scored a ball for an easy goal opening the game up, and instead he decided to take a deep shot straight at Svilar that was not very good. He had options and he chose not to do it, and then he kept making bad passes, passing the ball out of bounds to people who were wide open that should have been simple. But he was just so emotionally charged up that he was in his own head, and it was getting in mine as well. It was pissing me off. So
combination of being emotionally charged up and physically unfit is not good. It's just not good. He'd only done 1 full training session, and I think he looked like Wesley had him on toast in that first half, and he looks really good, does Wesley, by the way. But I think flop, you can pick a few. I thought the front 2 didn't work. I must say as well a nod to Modric, who held the midfield together at times on his own. I've seen some people saying that he wasn't very good, wasn't very tidy. I thought he was just excellent in both phases, and without him, we would have completely buckled. Rabiot, I was disappointed with. I don't really understand the praise that he's getting, to be honest. I think in a game like that, you really need him, like Como away, like Torino away, in a tough away environment where you're under pressure. That's why you need someone like that to stand up. I know he has so many times, so you can't expect it every game, but was a little disappointed with him. Thought Bartazaghi, conversely, gives away the penalty, but had a pretty good game apart from that. And even thought he was going to score a Teo-esque goal towards the end there. But yeah, it was a bit of a roller coaster. So I'll give it to Coney Island on that front. Koni de Winter.
You're going to give him flop? You just picked him for top.
No, sorry, for top. Out of all of the players that were hit and miss,
Oh,
Koni
yeah.
top, and then for flop, I will say Leao or Nkunku, either.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right, let's do a Bologna preview.
Okay.
So this is a week on Tuesday, 1 week,
Yes,
8 days away from when we're recording. Yeah, so it's a while until this one. It's a strange.
I should clarify, by the way, last week when I said it was 14 days, I was looking at the 14 days to Bologna game from the day we were recording, and that wasn't intentional, so I was just wrong, but it still is a weekend off. So what I was trying to say was right, but I counted wrong. So I apologize to the people in the comments. I got called out a few times, and you guys are right. So accountability is good.
Yeah, good. Open forum discussion. I like it. We spoke a bit in the last preview that we did for the Bologna game. This is one of the few teams that we've already played this season. We, of course, beat them 1-0 at San Siro with Modric scoring his first goal for the club in that yellow kit, which is such a shame. You know, his first goal should have been in red and black, but whatever. That's just my personal vendetta. Since then, Bologna have been a little bit up and down. Be fair to say, if you look at where they are in the league table, they are 8th in Serie A with 30 points from 22 games. They've won 8, but also lost 8 games, which means 6 draws. Scored 32 goals, so that's comfortably over a goal a game. They've let in 27, which makes them the worst defensive team by quite some distance in the top 9 teams at the moment. I'm just looking here. Lazio in their 22 games have scored 21, conceded 19. That's rough. That's just not even fun to watch. But yeah, Bologna yesterday completely fell apart at Genoa. They were 2-0 up after 47 minutes through Ferguson and an own goal. Then Malinowski scores a thunderbolt of a free kick. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like a 30-yard top corner. Goal of the week already sewn up for me. Then Kelebek-Uban scores 78th minute, and then Junior Messias, or should we say Senior Messi, not ass, scores a 91st minute winner, and it was a lovely goal, and they win that 3-2. And Skorupski got a red card in the 56th minute, the goalkeeper, of course, for Bologna, which means he is unavailable to face us in this game. Bologna play on Thursday night against Maccabi Tel Aviv, away from home in the Europa League, and they are currently 15th there, so they're pretty resigned to finishing in the middle 16 teams, but they'll want to go and give themselves the best shot of finishing in the top 8. But prior to the loss to Genoa, they drew 2-2 with Celtic at home when they were 2-0 down in that game, and they benefited from a red card. They lost 2-1 at home to Fiorentina. Fiorentina scored I think it was Piccoli who scored the winner in that one, and of course it was after the passing of Rocco Commisso. 1-3-2 away at Verona, drew 1-1 away at Como, lost 2-0 at home to Atalanta, lost 3-1 away at Inter. So up and down in terms of results, as 8 wins and 8 losses shows. How are you feeling about this one? It's another away game for us.
Yeah, so obviously our away form is impeccable this season, but I look at their run of form, and the Verona win on the 15th of this month is their only league win in 2026, but also it's their only league win since Thanksgiving in November.
Wow.
Which is weird because they beat Napoli 2-0 and then they just have dropped off a lot. But when you factor in Skorupski red card for this game, and is it Lukemi? Yeah, one of their better center backs, in my opinion, is also out injured. He may come back, I don't know, but he's been out. I think we're poised for a win here. I think we have to be honest. Otherwise, the gap to Inter is just, we're not going to catch them. If it becomes 8 points, we're in a lot of trouble. So I think we're coming into this game with a chip on our shoulder. I think Bologna's going into this game thinking we just need to sit back and hope for the best because they're not going to win. Maybe they get a lucky counter on us and that's how they score. But I think they're viewing this as like, it's going to be a role reversal. They're going to be the team just inviting our pressure the whole first half. And if we don't score, it's going to be, Genoa all over again, where we're waiting until the 90th minute to equalize or some bullshit. So that's where my head's at. I am going to say we're winning, but yeah, actually, no, I'm confident in a win here, and I don't think we're going to have too many issues. I would like to see full Krug from the start, from the first minute.
I think the way that you framed it as like this has become a must-win game is entirely correct, and it's quite tough to say you have to go to Bologna and win. With some of the problems that they've caused teams above them and around them. We never seem to find it easy when we go away to Bologna. But yeah, as you said, Lukumi being injured is he is injured, isn't he?
Yeah. He's
back around 25, so he's out. Touch wood, it's just Santi Jimenez for us. Juan Miranda is disqualified as well, so he won't be able to play at left back for them. Then I'm just looking here. We have Fofana, Rabiot, and Atakame one booking away from a suspension. So might that factor in with what's to come after this? We have got
Como.
Yeah, we've got Como at home, and then we've got Pisa away, Parma at home, Cremonese away. So I just wonder if you want to get him through this, don't you? And then
maybe Rabiot sits out this game. I could see him starting at the Kame. I don't think that's a sacrifice that anyone's going to be afraid of making, right? Like if he misses Como, it's not the end of the world. I'd rather Salamakers against Como. So maybe Rabiot sits out. And it's Fofana because, again, it's all good if he misses. And I guess Ricci. I don't want to see Fofana Loftus-Cheek together. I'd rather it be Ricci. Or maybe it's Jashari again.
Jashari, I was thinking maybe. Yeah. But the thing is now, we're in this position, aren't we, where the only reason that you would have to make changes to the first choice starting 11, however that might be, is because of injuries or because of suspensions. Like the work rate or the managing of minutes shouldn't be an issue because, as we said, we've got 8 days between games here, 9 days between games, and Salamanca should be back to 100%. We should be able to get Pulisic and Leao, more rested, and anyone who's basically carrying a little bit of a knock should be able to shake it off between games now. So I also don't really see the need to make wholesale changes. And I probably just trust Rabiot. He's only on 4 in 21 games. So I think you probably chance it a little bit. But if he wants to swap him out, then I think Jashari is probably the obvious candidate. And then I don't know. I tend to find myself in agreement with you that Füllkrug perhaps should have a starting role at this point. I just think he offers us something a lot different. But I think Pulisic has to come back into the team. Without him, he's an outball to relieve pressure, but in a different way because he drops and he gets on the ball and he just doesn't give it away easily. Whereas, as you were saying, Leao, when he's trying some of these back flicks and stuff in the middle of the field, like Allegri's losing his shit because it's such a cheap giveaway. Pulisic is the opposite. I think he tries to make the most out of every possession. So I think he has to start in a game like this and then whoever.
Yeah, games like this when I think that they're going to sit back and invite our pressure, that's the game when you need a guy like Füllkrug, someone who's going to play well with his back to goal, who's going to hold up defenders, who's going to be jumping up high for these headers because it's going to be a lot of crosses in the middle of the box. I don't think it's going to be a game where you're really going to be using technical skill to break them down and running down the middle. That this is a game where Leao and Nkunku together would fail miserably. I think we really need, like you said, a guy who's going to hold on to the ball in Pulisic and the guy who can hold up play and head the ball in like Füllkrug. That, to me, that has to be the starting partnership. And I really think you don't risk Rabiot because this is the game that is going to frustrate us because they're going to sit back. And if we're not scoring, if we don't score quick, I could see there being stupid fouls in the midfield and I could see Rabiot getting booked. And then we would definitely lose against Como because Como has been fired up about us ever since that game. Fabregas has not shut up about Milan, and I really feel we're going to lose that one next week, which we'll talk about in that preview. But I don't want to make it any easier for them. I want it to be tough. So I don't risk Rabiot.
I suppose we should also mention at this point that the Como game could get moved.
I didn't know that.
It's penciled in for now, but I think if Inter end up playing in the playoffs and they're at home in the second leg or something, it will get. I can't remember. There's a stipulation where it'll get moved again, basically, because San Siro will be used that night or the night after, whatever. Okay. So, subject to change, but I suppose it's in there for now. Interesting. I don't think Bologna will sit back because it's an Italiano team, and I don't think they have that setting. The fact that they score so many but let so many goals in suggests that they just play gung ho. I think this kind of plays into our hands a little bit. They play 4-2-3-1, and I think we've performed quite well against teams that play 4-2-3-1. We seem to just be able to double up in different areas of the pitch, which I've always liked about the 3-5-2. Just looking at their team, I mean, it's going to be Ravaglia in goal because of Skorupski's suspension. Zortea, scored against us for Cagliari. Right back, Casale and Hegem was the centre-backs. Liko Yanis was playing left-back last time. Freuler and Ferguson as the double pivot. Jonathan Rowe. Maybe you don't play Rabiot because of that. Good shout. Odegaard and Benjamin Dominguez, who I really like, as the trio behind Ciro Immobile. They were able to bring off the bench in that draw against Genoa. And again, this is another nod to how poor our squad depth is. They brought on Simon Som, who cost 20 million plus from Parma in the summer. Dalinga, good centre forward. Martin Vitic, who they spent quite a bit of money to sign. I think he was at Slavia Prague or Sparta Prague. But they have players like Orsolini as an unused sub, Santiago Castro as an unused sub, Cambiaghi, unused sub, Di Silvestri, Bernardeschi. He's not been great, but like they've got actual plenty of options. They've got like a 14-player bench or whatever. So yeah, I'm looking at their stats here. Orsolini is their top scorer in the league with 7 goals, and Castro is second with 6. So they have 13 league goals sat on the bench and 16 goal contributions on the bench. Odegaard's having a good season, 4 goals, 1 assist. Emil Holm has 4 assists. Bit of a spread threat, really. Pobega was an unused sub too. He scored a couple of goals this season for them. And of course, we know about the law of the X when it comes to us. Wouldn't surprise me if he crashes in a late winner or whatever. That being said, I'm a little more positive about this than I was the Roma game. I think we nick it 2-1.
I'll go 1-0.
Nice. Okay. Do you want to do a couple of minutes on the Maignan renewal, or should we wait until he's signed?
Yeah, let's wait till it's signed, just in case. Okay. You never know with this shit.
Right, I've got one question to ask, and we can do it as a quick fire one. Time insensitive, do you think next season, with significant reinforcements, we will see a system change? He thinks that the current squad is step 1 in terms of a multi-step squad build. Do you think that this team evolves into a 4-3-3 or whatever with some summer?
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a 4-3-3 specifically. That's just the one that I think is the most typical in today's football. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route we go, but definitely spot on. This is step 1. Step 1 is qualifying for the Champions League. Step 2 is then bringing in more players. I wouldn't be surprised if we bring in another 6 to 8 over the summer window and actually hold on to a few of them. I think that's what we're going to have to do, right? We can't go into a second season in a third competition, especially one as difficult as the Champions League, with only 19 outfield players. I guess technically it's 20 now, but Fulkrug is on loan. So we need more. I mean, we're getting injuries now. Like it won't work. So yes, we need more players, which means there's probably going to be a system change so that you could fit in all those strong players. And I think a 3 up front is the way to go, with just looking at who our strongest are. Pulisic and Leao, they're performing, right? They're getting goals, but they never look that great when they're together, and you need both those guys playing at the same time. Neither of them are going to be okay sitting on the bench. I'm getting a little worried about Pulisic too, because his renewal still hasn't come. It's about a year and a half since they said it was done. So a little nervous about that. Obviously, we had the option to add a year, and maybe that's just what we do, and then we do a renewal after that. But thinking about the player side of that, he'd be pretty irritated if that's the route we went, and also knowing he's now a bench player for whatever reason. So we got to find a way to get them both in there, and it's not difficult to find a way to get a left wing and a right wing on the field at the same time, right? You just you play wings. So that's what I think we need to do. So which to me says priority right back for next summer.
Yeah, definitely a possibility, because that's kind of gone under the radar, is the fact that we don't have a natural right back in the squad, so you'd have to adapt someone if we did change to a back 4, and that was one of the things that we spoke about last night. I agree with the notion of the question that this is step 1 in a multi-step squad rebuild. I don't think that step 1 was anything building, though. It was stripping it all the way back. and getting rid of players not that Allegri doesn't deem a good fit for his project. And then, hopefully with European football, Champions League football next season, then you need to expand the squad. And I think, we've got 19 outfield players. You want at least 2 per position, and then some, a bit of extra cover. So you probably need to expand that to 25 players, which is what the squad list is. So yeah, we definitely need to do that. I think day one of pre-season, the reports were that he wanted to play a 4-3-3, but I think he's probably taken a look at the defensive record, the profile of the centre-backs, and gone, right, let's build from the back. Let's become hard to beat first and foremost. And then if we end this season with 30 goals conceded from our 38 games, he'll probably say mission achieved, and then we can maybe see an evolution to a 4-3-3, especially if, as the rumours suggest, we're in the market for a high-profile centre-forward in the summer. I think then you're almost certainly moving to a front 3 to get the best out of Leao and Pulisic for the reasons that you said. And then we need to see what happens with Modric too. Do we go to directly replace him, or does the midfield get rejigged again and we start playing a 4-2-3-1 or something? We'll see. But yes, I agree. The squad has to expand in terms of depth and in terms of quality. And I expect a summer with quite a high net spend this time, to be honest, because as you say, I don't think we'll be in the business of selling. And I think we're going to get some good money as well. Some of the players out on loan with options and obligations and stuff. So, we'll be able to plough that back in. But it's going to be a big summer regardless, because either we're back in the Champions League and things have gone well. We've miraculously won the title and the pressure's on to defend. Or we've dropped off a cliff and we didn't finish in the Champions League, and therefore the pressure's on to all right, what's next? Because it's gone badly wrong. So yeah, it's a massive summer either way. We'll wrap it up there.
Just to build on that real quick, my concern is, what if when Allegri was hired, they said this is a 3-year plan. We're going to strip down the squad. You're going to lock in the basics. Year 2, we're going to build back up the squad. We're going to build upon your basics. We're going to make sure that we're in the Champions League consistently for 2 years. And then year 3, you're going to make that Scudetto push. And what if year 1, we somehow win the Scudetto and they go, well, you're good. You did it. We don't need anything over the summer. That's the best worst case scenario, but
he's got to do a Conte, and just kick up a massive stink. At it. But Allegri, so far he hasn't been that type. He's taken the pressure off the management and said, what I've got is fine. But I think deep down behind closed doors they'll be having those conversations.
Yeah, well, and that's probably what was Maldini's undoing, was winning it early in the project, right? Because didn't he say it was like a 5-year plan? And they just happened to win it year 1 or year 2, whatever.
Won it early, and then the following season, obviously, we get to the Champions League semis, which was ahead of schedule. And he does that interview saying that the time's now. We've got to invest now to stay at this level. And as we know, you can make arguments both sides for that, but it did end up being his undoing. Really, he was sacked not long after that. But yeah, we'll see. Big things to come. We're back later this week with another bonus episode. Back next Wednesday. As a reminder for it's slightly later than normal, so we can recap the Bologna game. I've been your host, Oli Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Oli Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
See you guys next time. Woohoo!
Have a good week. Forza Milan.